the mayor of Pontiac, Deidre, I'm sorry,
Deidre.
I know, but I gotta put I know your name. I've interviewed you before. I just gotta put my
I know,
glasses
Ronnie.
on.
Okay.
Mayor, thank you for being with us. How are you today?
So great to be with you, Ronnie. Thank you for inviting me back again.
So we've been talking, Tyler and I, because once you hit 40, you need your glasses, but I try to take them off and pretend like I don't need them, but then I need them. And then I can't read what's next, and it messes me all up.
Well, before I was a mayor, I was an ophthalmologist. So I know well that 40-degree, we call it the disease of age 40. So it happens to the best of us. And those reading glasses do come in handy at the proper time.
Well, Mayor, thank you so much for being with us. And I know there's so much still going on since even the last time we spoke with you, but I kind of want to touch off, and if we can start with the latest decision with the census. This has been up and down, and the delay of the deadline, and now we have this new court ruling. What does that mean to the city of Pontiac?
That means that we sent out advisory to everybody in Pontiac that if you haven't done your census yet, now's the last day to do it. So I sent it out on all our public advisory and all our social network platforms because although we're happy that we met our goal this year in a very trying year, we still want to make sure that everyone knows that they count. And we hope that the people who haven't done it will still do it. Today's the last day. They can do it online, and we've made an all-out effort to increase our numbers, which we have this year. Last time we did the census 10 years ago, Pontiac was one of the lower count cities, and I think we were undercounted from what I'm seeing 10 years later. So we were determined to change that, and we have now met our goal in terms of the increase we wanted to see, making sure that the national average, which is down because of the pandemic, but we are well in comparison with that. That's a great gain from where we were 10 years ago. So I hope we'll even exceed that once we get the final numbers. But that's very important for the city of Pontiac in terms of the dollars that it will bring and that it means for the next 10 years.
Yeah, and with that, I will say it is so easy now to be able to do it online. It literally takes 3 minutes, if not less. And with that, it's been extended. It's been extended. There's been so much confusion about the census and the deadline, but I know it's the last day. Just explain why this is so important to communities.
The census is so important because it's once every 10 years, communities get to be counted. And the count will determine the amount of a lot of the federal money that comes into the cities, things that handle such things as the money we get to help fix our roads. And everybody knows in Michigan we need our roads fixed. For things such as subsidized meals, a lot of the children receive free lunches and some of the other care. Some of the healthcare clinics are somewhat subsidized by federal subsidies, our federal block grant money. All that's determined by the proportion and the counts we have in the numbers, as well as our representation in Congress. So we wanted to not lose any numbers in terms of representation. And that all depends on the count that they have in their various communities. So it was an all out effort for us to be counted and counted at a higher percentage than we were last, and to increase this low compliance. We had a huge census committee. Everybody got the messaging out because of the pandemic. The National Census Bureau had said that we couldn't do the door to door like we had planned, and so many of the face to face activities were canceled. So we had to find some really innovative ways to getting out their messages. And in Pontiac, we created the drive in census concerts, which were great and very popular. And as we were doing the drive in to limited numbers because of the executive orders, we were also filming it live over Facebook and got, in some instances, almost 100,000 views of people who were tuning into the concerts live. And in addition to that, getting the messaging to fill out your census. It was easy to do this year, strictly confidential, but so important to the city. And so we heard a lot of people, nobody in Pontiac, I didn't hear the messaging. So we accomplished our goal in that.
If I can touch on just for a second, for so many people that maybe are undocumented living in the area, not just Pontiac, but in the surrounding area as well, they feel like they can't fill out the census or that it's being tracked. Do you have a message to them that you want to share?
That was an important part of the messaging. This is entirely a confidential process. And that was so important to assure the security of that messaging for all of us. In this day and age, and where there's a lot of intrusion in our private lives, people want to know that their information is secure. So that was done through all the levels of government. We continue to emphasize that. And we wanted to make sure ourselves that when we said that your records would not be obtainable for, I don't know, it's 60 or 70 years, I forgot, but many of us will be dead by the time that the federal government allows those records to be open. But that was important because there was a certain sensitivity to that because of the fact that when the census was announced for 2020 initially, there was an intent to put the citizenship question on the census. Had never been done before, and it took a long fight through the courts before that was taken off. There is no citizenship question on the census, as you well know. But in the meantime, it sensitized a lot of the people who were kind of uncomfortable with including that status, and so they were had to be convinced to come back, and that it was safe. So that took a lot of messaging, a lot of being handouts at markets and other places, public places where we can encounter people and talk to them where they were and give them that sense of confidence in that census process.
Yeah, and I know that it's not just Pontiac, but all the areas throughout the greater West Bloomfield area. So many people have not taken the time to fill out the census, but it is so incredibly important for our local bottom line. I mean, this is money. This is money that we rely on. Again, just go to my2020census.gov. That's my2020census.gov to start the process. It will not take you more than 5 minutes. And like you said, they're not tracking that information if you're concerned about your personal information getting out there. But it's so important to help support our local communities and the money that we also get. And we need everyone to take part in that. Moving beyond the census, so many other things going on in the city of Pontiac. Where do you want to start development? How about Amazon?
Well, Amazon is going great guns. They came into the city and decided to put both a distribution center and a fulfillment center in Pontiac. This was the first time this had been done with those both of those facilities on one site in the United States. And it is a prototype for the kind of technology that they're going to put in the coming Amazon fulfillment centers. So they're going at warp speed. One of the things they vetted the city that we would be able to deliver with the speed that they wanted to move, and we have done that. So they have kept a schedule, and in fact, the first building has already been delivered. It's the distribution center, and then we got trucks going in and out of there every day now, delivering packages in those Amazon Prime uh, van to take the packages out. In addition to the fact that the fulfillment center, which is huge, it is on the Silverdome site where it's being built. And the building itself, as we see the outer structure, is 4 times the size of the Silverdome, if you can imagine that. 4 times. So it's mammoth, it's very impressive, it's going up. They are now at the stage where they're putting in a lot of the robotics and the conveyor systems, and they will plan to have that open and ready to deliver to Amazon for August 1st next year. And from all the construction industry, they said that is warp speed. This Pontiac site was very desirable. And so that is a great message for the city of Pontiac that we were able to get one of these Amazon sites, because that's almost like the good housekeeping seal of approval that they have approved the Pontiac community as a community in which they wanted to do business. So that brought out a lot of messaging to other businesses that are now coming into Pontiac and saying this is a good place to do business, and to bring your enterprises.
And hopefully brings a lot of jobs as well. I have to say though, I remember when the city of Pontiac was under executive, I forget, executive order, and they
Emergency
sold the,
manager.
yeah, and they sold the Silver Dome. I was it like $500,000. It was such a low price, and I wonder now, where would the city of Pontiac, that so desperately needs some of this money, be right now, had you had the control to sell that property yourself to Amazon?
Well, yeah, and don't make me cry,
I know
okay?
you, and we
Because
can't
looking
look
back,
back, but
can't look
that was
back.
such a huge
Yeah,
decision,
yeah,
and just had so many people shaking their heads back in the day.
yeah. That was tragic for the city. The city could have sold it for $20 million, which would have forestalled, I think, as we look back, the economic crisis that the city went through later. But you can't go back and undo things, as I told the people when they elected me for the now my second term as mayor, that we can't move forward and look back at the same time. That we knew that those mistakes of the past were in our rearview mirrors, that we were going to build, and we had to move forward conjointly in order to achieve our goals. So we're doing that, and it's unfortunate about the Silver Dome, but we have other opportunities, and we want to use the mistakes of the past to guide us in making sound financial decisions as we move forward. And I think the progress we've had has shown that we've put some of those policies in place, and that has made a difference for the city.
Mayor Deidre Waterman with us on the Oakland County MegaCast. Mayor, with all these health advisories that have been going out over the last 7 months or so, with the pandemic being taking a toll on our communities and on the state of Michigan, they continue to be going out as more new information comes in. And now Pontiac has developed a new app as well that will help to connect residents to information from the city. Can you tell us a little bit about that app and when it may be available?
Well, it's we're using it internally now. It's called Pontiac Connect, and it was a prototype that was developed for the city of Pontiac by a company called Kaiba, a local company in Farmington. And originally, we put it out in order to get these health advisories out, and to also use it for the reporting of our staff in terms of the questions and the COVID-19 health advisories that we wanted our staff and our employees to have. But we're going to open it up to the larger public now. In fact, we've announced a launch date of November 18th, in which we're going to announce it to the public in general and it open up to the general population. It also has features of contract tracing, but it's also one of the social networking platforms that will be able to engage and to give health advisories as well as other notices, another way of connecting with our citizens. So it is available now on both the Apple App Store as well as Google. And as we said, we're going to making the grand announcement and making it available to the general public in a few weeks. And so you'll see more about that as we do that.
Mayor Waterman with us here on the Oakland County MegaCast. She, of course, is the mayor of the city of Pontiac. And United Shore has been such a big part of the city of Pontiac, and its growth is crazy right
I
now.
know.
Talk about what that means, not just from what we see in the public view about a big company such as that coming into the city of Pontiac. What are the underlying benefits of having a company such as United Shore in the Pontiac city limits?
Many things, not the least of which is the economic development. I mean, that's huge. The recognition it gives to the city. To have a company of that caliber, it shows now that Pontiac is competitive for bringing in that kind of business. United Shore came to the city to expand. They were originally headquartered in Troy. So they picked Pontiac as a place where they could expand their services. They came in with 2,500 employees. They have now built so much that they have now bought another building across the street, and it's being connected as we speak by a pedestrian bridge that they're building. And when they get the conveyor system put in and open it up, it's going to be the longest pedestrian bridge anywhere in the United States. So that's a record. And they will have, with the way that they're hiring, as you mentioned, be able to offer up to 7,000 jobs by the time they reach their pinnacle in a few months. Maybe delayed a little bit by the pandemic, but not that much from the way I see it, the way they're hiring. So that offers a lots of jobs to Pontiac job training. And we're proud to offer that not only to the residents, but to the wider community. So the economic development, the fact that they're also good corporate partners, we give a lot of businesses incentives in order to be competitive with other cities. Well, they gave their incentive back. They said Pontiac can use it more than they could, and they've been great corporate partners. In fact, I have showcased United Shore, the state of the city I had this year and last year. I had at the beautiful building of United Shore. So we're proud to have them here. They're proud to be in Pontiac, and that again is one of the signs of progress and the signs of the narrative about Pontiac is changing. It's the way we're diversifying our economy, bringing in jobs, economic development, and a great company that's doing great business.
And with that, though, when we look at United Shore, I know that there was such a huge effort in the city of Detroit in trying to hire Detroit residents. Is there any type of conversation with these bigger companies that are coming into the city of Pontiac about hiring Pontiac residents, or at least those in the nearby community as well?
Absolutely. uh, Jobs and offering jobs and job training to our Pontiac residents was a huge part, a concern of mine, and a huge part of my platform. Work development was one of the transitional items that we worked on and we put in place. So, as companies have been coming in and we've had the opportunity to develop development agreements with them, we've always put in there the jobs for Pontiac residents, and in some instances, also carve outs for Pontiac based businesses. And we've done that with some of our major businesses and enterprises, such as the Village at Bloomfield, which now houses a Menards and soon to be a Planet Fitness, and housing that's there, as well as a number of other retail and other kind of stores, a Henry Ford Hospital outpatient unit. So it's an amazing facility and development that was vacant for 10 years. And
Okay,
now
I
to
have
me,
to stop you there though, because I live in that area and the village of Bloomfield is a hot mess. It is such a hot mess compared to what it was supposed to be and the original
okay.
potential, and then the dispute between the communities of Pontiac and Bloomfield Hills, and I don't know if Sylvan was involved in it.
Yeah,
That is nowhere near what it should be. While we're grateful to have something in there,
yeah,
it's nowhere near what was intended for that space.
you're perfectly right. That precedes me, and I know all the time it's spent to kind of do the annexation and all of that, and it was completely conceived completely differently. But the original developer who brought that plan to both communities, of course, went bankrupt, and so the facility sat there as a monstrosity that was half built for 10 years. So we were able to find a willing and capable developer to salvage that site, and now it is a thriving place. Nothing what it was originally conceived to be, but something different. And For we see from the way people are flocking there. I mean, the parking lots there are always full, and in addition, they're bringing in other aspects of that, including the next phase is to bring in a American House, uh, quality living for our senior citizens who need some assisted care, as well as the Planet Fitness. So for those who were there in the early renditions, and that was before I even was had anything to do with city government, who were there for the court cases, this is the way it was resolved, and it took a committed, well-capitalized developer to be able to change that from an eyesore to what we see right now with the economic development it brings.
Okay, we could
But
go on forever about that development, but I'm just going to
yeah,
skip it real quick. Your time is so valuable. We always appreciate having you here on the Oakland County MegaCast. Just a couple more minutes here before we have to wrap up with you. A lot of other great things are going on in the city of Pontiac. What do you want to get out to the public about some of the things that are happening, but also for the people who do maybe live somewhat close by who haven't been to Pontiac, because there is somewhat of a stigma attached to the city of Pontiac? What do you want them to see that and to explore that may be new for people who haven't been there in the last 5 years?
I want them to see that there's a new narrative about Pontiac. I know when there are stigmas that's attached from many, many years out, things that it takes a while to change, but we're doing it gradually and assuredly. There used to be a time when everything that came out of Pontiac was negative. Now we see that we're coming out every day with new highlights about what's going on in Pontiac, and so attention is now turned to the new dynamic that is Pontiac. For example, not only the enterprises you mentioned, United Shore and Village at Bloomfield, and but there's M1 Concourse. You know, so much attention is drawn to that. That's a novel thing that's happening right at our gateway. We have so many new building projects that are going on right now, including some of our first new multi-family residential buildings that have been going up in 20 years. So that is creating a whole new narrative about Pontiac, building the aesthetic that this is a good place to do business. We've changed our way of doing business, made it more developer friendly, and it's a safer place to be. Sheriff Bouchard is very proud of the fact that the violent crime statistics in Pontiac have been brought down 40% in the last 6 years. And so we now have the same statistics as any of the large cities uh, in Oakland County, bar none. So that's a huge accomplishment. And safety and welfare are one of the chief things of the elected official, and I hold that very sacrosanct in terms of my role. And so those are the things that we worked on first to make this a very livable community. I'm sure we're achieving that. Not only do we have all these new businesses coming to town, in fact, we have become known as an emerging tech hub with all the high tech businesses that have found their way to Pontiac and are building that nomenclature for the city. But in addition to the fact that residents are discovering the beautiful neighborhoods we've had here, that we've restored a lot of pride to. In fact, the brokers tell me that the average time for most houses in Pontiac when they go on sale, they're only on the market on an average of 3 days. So tell me another community that can say that.
Wow.
So that's showing that we're changing the narrative about Pontiac in terms of the attractiveness, the retention of business, and the safety and security of our residents and citizens. Not to mention our health and welfare that we've instituted all these policies now to make sure we're safe through the pandemic. As the numbers are increasing, we want to make sure that everybody follows the mandates to stay safe because that is where we want to be, and we want to protect our visitors, our staff, and be able to open our city facilities with some confidence that we are making sure people are going to be able to stay safe and healthy.
And that is a great point to make there as well. Quickly though, I just want to get one thing out or ask one question before we let you leave. The M1 concourse and what they're doing there, they're reshaping that area right there at Woodward and South Boulevard. Then you have United Shore just down the road. But can we talk about the Phoenix Center real quickly? What is going on, because that is such been this big hotbed of contention for the past 10, 15 years, but that is what's kind of in the middle of reshaping the city of Pontiac.
Yes, it is. It's a almost a mascot of the city in the center of our entryway to our downtown. So it has that thematic importance for the city. Uh, it has a controversial history, almost notorious from the days of the emergency manager. One of the things that it's taken some time to find some solution to. Um, and one of the things that fell upon my plate as I came in post emergency manager was to find a solution for the litigation that was first introduced under the emergency manager. That was quite a conundrum for the city and could have taken the city back to financial instability if we had had an adverse ruling about that. So, from the mediation that we underwent and was successful, the court did give us 2 years on the city council, 2 years to come up with a way to fulfill the terms of the settlement agreement. Council has, in their due wisdom, with the various factions there, have has been struggling to see how they're going to come to a concord consensus about how to solve that. So we are working on a lot of the alternate methods that we want to make sure we can bring people together to use that spinning center again for the city, as well as the importance it plays for the reopening of our downtown post pandemic, as well as providing parking for all those new entities that want to establish in downtown Pontiac and make it a thriving entity in the city.
I think it's a great location. I went to a concert there when Arts Beats and Eat was still in the city of Pontiac, and I thought it was a great location. So, uh, thank you so much for the update. It's always great having you with us here. Mayor Waterman here with the city of Pontiac. We appreciate your time. Stay safe, stay healthy, and again, our appreciation to you and your entire team for all that you're doing for the city of Pontiac.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me on the show.